Dude, did you see Apple bought the F1 full F1 rights?
No, what does that mean?
They bid out ESPN by over 50 million, I think $50 million. I think it's 150 per year that they're spending.
Not a lot of money for Apple.
No, not a lot of money for Apple. And then I don't know if you saw yesterday, they relaunched the new Apple Vision Pros.
Dude, I saw that was coming up. How's it look?
Well, put the two together.
Oh.
And then Eddie Q of Apple, their head of streaming, came out and was like, look, we're playing the long game. The user experience is broken. You have to switch between all these different providers to watch some show or whatnot. It's like that we need to fix that. One. Two, we're in the long game. We don't want just a piece of the rights for a sports league. We want the whole thing, like we did with F1. We're going to wait on these contracts to run out for NBA, NFL, baseball, all this other stuff, and then we're going to bid on them. And my hunch is if they can get the user experience right, i.e., Vision Pro, phone, whatever, it will be an irresistible user experience that the other sports leagues will jump over themselves to allow Apple to win over anybody else.
And there's so few companies. Who can afford to compete here? Apple, Amazon, Google, that's it.
And the most valuable streaming rights right now, aside from, movies, is live sports.
Yeah.
That's what people watch.
And I would argue a lot of the live sports experience is fairly broken, right?
Yes.
How hard do we now find it, leave alone going to a game, but just sitting there and watching a whole game with all those ads? It's brutally tough in a world where we're used to flipping content every 2.1 seconds.
And I don't know how that's going to change, but imagine the NBA having cameras on the sideline where you could put on your Apple Vision Pro and watch a game from courtside.
Imagine that camera being on the front of a quarterback's helmet and you're watching it through his view. And by the way, not watching the whole game, but like, hey, man, let's just go watch the highlights from the view of your favorite quarterback.
Or switch.
Yeah. Complete control.
In-game, complete control.
What does this mean for Tim Cook? Does this help him survive?
No, I actually think Eddie Q is going to take over. I think he's one of the top contenders. They need an innovator, and Cook is a supply, chain master.
Yeah,
I think they need an innovator if they're going to move forward. So I think Tim Cook will be out in the next 6 to 12 months.
Oh my God, that's a bold call. Out of his own volition, or are you going to push him out?
I think it's going to be the board's decision. I think Tim's ready also, but I think it's going to be the board and the shareholders.
Market share, but their stock is performing well again.
Yeah, but there's just nothing in the pipeline. Phones are stagnating. They could certainly steal more market share from Android, who has the predominant share, but they're not. They just can't. And they're not innovating fast enough. The phones out of China, I don't know if you've seen, are awesome.
Yeah, like knockoff type brands, like
knockoff type brands. Yeah. Marquis Brownlee did this whole thing on the Xiaomi new Apple knockoff. He's like, it's better than the iPhone.
Better hardware or better software or both?
Both. It's faster, better battery life, better cameras. It has a screen on the back. They took what the iPhone did and just made it even better. Now, you can't get it in the US, but if you are in China, why would you ever buy an Apple iPhone?
Sure. And that is the problem with hardware, is someone's always going to be better. But I guess my question is, if you look at Steve Jobs' success, it's through the lens of all those different products, which were mind-bending. And then if you look at Tim Cook's success, it was through the lens of how do I take these amazing products, turn it into massive revenue growth. And now, to your point, it feels like it's stagnating. Like, I don't know, Cook, have you lost it? But if Apple TV and then morphing into F1 streaming and then tying that back to the hardware as you describe it, does that not say, hey, Tim Cook, you have your massive product success? If Jobs was the iMac and then the iPhone, et cetera, is that not a huge win for Cook?
Yeah. I would argue, who cares about Cook? Who cares about his wins? It's all about Apple.
Sure.
But yes, his legacy, his legacy's been intact regardless. He drove the most market cap growth, I think, of any company in the last 12 years, right? His
Yeah.
growth was at those large cap sizes have been huge.
It pummels everything. I had it once. I think you
Yeah,
recorded it once for one of our podcasts, but it pummels anything from Warren Buffett all the way down. The only thing that comes close is like what the current CEO did at Microsoft, but Cook
yeah,
had a much, much longer run at it.
yeah, and it literally started about when Warren publicly made his first buy into Apple. I remember he interviewed. He's like, "So funny, like, I asked my grandchildren, would they ever buy a droid?" And they're like, "Absolutely not, never in my life." And that's when he realized, "Oh my god, they're sitting on basically a reoccurring revenue stream,"
The
right?
moat, as he calls it.
The moat. Totally,
Yeah, but now, I mean, look, let's go back to Cook for 1 second
yeah,
in the phones. Sure, the phone is not as dominant as it once was, and to your point, maybe the hardware in China is better, but who gives a shit? It's about the ecosystem. Like, I'm not coming out of Apple's ecosystem. I wouldn't even know where to begin to unwind everything out of the cloud and my photos and Apple Pay. I mean, they're so deeply woven into my life, which is kind of nasty, but also kind of brilliant by Cook and the rest
totally.
of the team.
Oh, 100%. Like, you don't realize it until you start to mention all those things, and I think the next frontier is streaming, right, and entertainment. I think that's where the big focus is gonna be. That's why I think Eddie Q is so teed up to be the next one because that is the area of opportunity that, they need to go into, and obviously, the headset, the devices, but I think they're still trying to figure that out, like, Facebook just launched their glasses, a much easier form factor for people to use. I think Apple's gonna get there, but in the meantime, they've launched the next iteration of Vision Pro.
What does the new Vision Pro form factor look like?
Same,
Eh,
same. Yeah,
eh.
I still have, mine in the closet.
I know, dude, that's a huge data point. Obviously, focus group of one, blah, blah, blah. But like, we were so excited, and you used it a total of 0 times. It was like my exercise bike and my mountain bike. Like, I bought them
Yes,
and I never once used them. Same thing with the
totally.
Vision Pro. Like,
Dude, I've got a great mountain bike, down there. I think I rode it 12 times.
12. That's
Yeah,
literally 11 and a half times more than my mountain
and
bike.
I needed the best mountain bike, of course. Like, you can't just settle for mediocre.
Of course, you needed the best mountain bike. The worst part of that is you talked me into also getting the best mountain
Yes,
bike. And then it
yes.
arrived, and I was like, "What do you think?" And your verbatim comment was, "Looks like a broken collarbone." I was like,
Oh,
"Fuck
that's
this thing.
awesome.
I like golf more. Put it away."
Totally, I like
Yeah.
golf. Nice.
So the pundits spend a lot of time trying to figure out where Apple's going, and I think the stock price reflects that. It's choppy, doing well right now. Half the people can't figure out if they're totally done, and half the people can't figure out if they're going to dominate the next decade. If you put your Magic Vision Pro glasses on, where do you see Apple 5 years from now?
I think they're going to do to TV and streaming what they've done to apps. Let me explain. The App Store has become a huge revenue, source for them, right? They're basically extracting a percentage on everything that's sold through the App Store. If they can reinvent streaming and reinvent what it means for advertisers to integrate, they will take a cut off of that. And because they will reinvent the advertising experience and integration, and I think they will take a cut just like they did in the App Store.
So that's a pretty big pivot, right? What you're saying there is shifting away from their current streaming, which is very subscription based, to ad supported.
Both.
Both.
Sponsorships, both. Right.
Basically, long
Be
overdue, like long overdue, owning the living room.
Yeah, because nobody's gonna be able to do what Apple does to the user experience inside live sports streaming, right? If this vision of what we think it is and more, and I think with that is going to come new advertising and sponsorship opportunities and brand integration that nobody else can do because they don't own the hardware and which will dictate the user experience
Yeah.
and the ecosystem and all that sort of stuff.
It's amazing nobody owns the living room yet. And that's, if there's anything disappointing in Apple, who I root for, as does everybody of our generation, like, it's amazing to find them so asleep at the wheel. Before we even started Questus, like years before, I worked on a project researching for Intel.
Mhm.
the digital living room, which
Yeah.
is almost everything you're describing, and it was always like, "It's gonna hit next year, it's gonna hit next year," never hit, and now it's kinda there, but to your point, it's kinda fucked up and fragmented. Different pieces of hardware, different
Totally.
streaming services, nothing cutting across to help us figure out how it all connects from a content perspective.
Do you know my number one app I use on the TV is
Ooh,
YouTube?
I've
Not YouTube TV,
yeah.
YouTube. Yeah.
I have followed your lead on that one. You're always, 6 to 12 months in the future for me. Totally, I found myself there. Yeah.
But it's content I wanna watch, right? And I'm leaning back, I'm like, "Fuck it, I'll put on a podcast interview," right? It's almost like watching the news, but it's way more curated to me.
It's the same reason you love Instagram. The
Yep.
algorithm curates it for you,
Yeah.
but you're in a much more comfortable environment. Big screen, big couch.
100%.
Yeah, because you don't even need to search, right? Are you searching or is it just it's just hitting
No.
your ADD and
No.
it's telling you for you? What is
Okay.
the most embarrassing thing you're watching on YouTube when you're on your couch nowadays?
Oh, Jesus. The most embarrassing? Pickleball instructional videos? I mean, that's not even that embarrassing, but, like, that shows up all over the place. I have no idea. I was watching, the history of the greatest paintings in the world last night, which was awesome. Like, they took Rembrandt's, The Night Watch, and they did this 45-minute episode on Rembrandt and this
I'm calling
painting.
bullshit right now. I'm calling bullshit. No
What?
way you made it through the whole 45 minutes
I
on
basically did the
Rembrandt.
whole thing, and then I started the next one, which was all about Turner's masterpiece. Dude, it's great.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Dude, a well-done documentary, right, is fantastic.
That's the problem with documentaries. There's too many that are not well done.
And it's funny, somebody said this to me, just to put it out there, because I now have kind of bad taste in my mouth about documentaries. It is of all the forms of propaganda, it is the best form factor.
Oh, absolutely. You have to be careful with what you're watching and who created it because the whole
Yes,
thing is built around
you
influencing. It's literally built around neuroscience, sight, sound, motion,
oh my
storytelling,
god.
filtering out so you only share your perspective. Yeah, that shit
Yes.
could be dangerous. Rembrandt, I think you're safe.
Yeah, I think I'm alright.
Right
Yeah,
on. Well, look, dude, we were just trying to talk about something else and we just went deep into the Apple hole and we've been recording.
yeah,
So let's just call
great.
it a chapter of Brand Champions. And thanks everybody for joining.
Brand Champions is a QUESTUS production. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and review wherever you tune in. You can submit mailbag questions to brandchampions@questus.com.